Heart and Hand is proudly sponsored by El Dorado Tonic Wine. It's more than a drink, it's a tradition. From five-a-sides to finals, El Dorado has been part of the story for generations. It's rich, bold, and unmistakable, just like the memories you make following your team. Whether you're celebrating a last-minute winner or dreaming of what could have been, El Dorado Tonic Wine brings the flavour and the feeling. The best part? You can find El Dorado Tonic Wine at your local Scottish convenience store or get it delivered straight to your door from Amazon. However you enjoy the game, make sure that El Dorado is part of it. El Dorado Tonic Wine, the taste of the game. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heart and Hand Extra. This is your extra show for the week. My name is Cammy Bell. I'm your host, as always. It is a pleasure to be back with you for our 15th season on Heart and Hand. And joining me to kick off season 25-26 as we not only speak about beating Panathinaikos across two legs, but looking forward to the proper football starting, and that's the domestic season at Fir Park on Saturday afternoon, is my very good friend Colin McMillan. Colin, thank you for joining me on this season's first extra.
Thanks, Cammy. Happy new season to you and the listeners. Hopefully it's a good one. We're due a good one. And yeah, delighted to be on the first extra of the new season. Lots and lots to talk about.
Colin, we're recording this pretty late on after the Panathinaikos game on Wednesday night. It's taken a little bit of time for us to be able to get our hearts back to normal beating pace because I won't lie, that was probably the worst thing I've ever had the misfortune to watch on the BBC since I accidentally turned on Mrs. Brown's Boys.
Yeah, we also do our post-match shows over on the Patreon network after every match, be it at home for the away games or in the car at the stadium for the home ones. And we quite often kind of say, you know what, I didn't enjoy that today, I didn't enjoy that tonight, but I reckon watching it back in the cold light of day tomorrow, it won't be as panicky, it won't be as jittery, and we're probably a little bit calmer, and we probably played better than we thought. We can't say that for this one. I could watch that game every day for the rest of my life and still be sitting on the couch shaking, petrified and worried for at least the first 73, 74 minutes of it. I think it was around that time where I decided, I think, you know what, I think we're actually going to go through. But yeah, not enjoyable. Stakes were high. Really, really big night for not only the club, but a big night for the manager, Cammy, in terms of getting through that, because that was a horror of a tie for him to get given. First European game, that qualifier, so early in the season, so early in the transfer window, so early in the rebuild and the restructure and everything else, and he's came through it. And it wasn't pretty. A couple of moments of magic across the two matches from us that got us through, but on the whole, wasn't beautiful, wasn't great to watch. I don't think it really resembles what we're going to be watching. I don't think it resembles the 11 in the park we'll be watching for much of the season either. But the big thing was just getting through, and we've done that. We're in the next round, and we've increased our chances of getting to the Champions League proper. And I don't think at this stage you can ask for much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I think we have to do is a little bit of parity, and we'll talk about some of the more concerning elements of probably what we've seen on Wednesday night and maybe across both legs of the tie in general. But ultimately, you, myself, everyone listening to this, fundamentally, we won't care too much about the performance as a legacy. We'll care about the fact that we have the first time of asking, especially for Russell Martin, navigated what I think it could have been said was a very tricky European qualifier. It guarantees us European football, of course, until at least February 2026. Where we play in Europe was obviously yet to be determined, and we'll come on to that in just a moment. But I think that both of those legs, and listen, we can discuss all day long the challenge that these the timing of these ties come out for us, and how it can be so difficult with regards the team building. Again, in our circumstances, a new manager coming in with a design and ideas that he wants to be able to implement, a squad in flux, which I think is very fair to say. So whilst again the performances, especially Wednesday night across in Greece, was pretty nail biting, you just have to be proud of the team to be able to navigate that hurdle.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the big point for me, is that we got through, and it's one of those matches, it's one of those ties where that really is the only thing that matters at this stage of the season. It's just getting through, keeping that European dream alive. We've got guaranteed European football now, and at group stages now. If we lost, we still didn't have that. We still faced the potential opportunity of going out of Europe completely, which for it would just be a really, really bad look for this new regime, new owners, new manager, new team, not to be playing European football, not to mention what it would do to the balance sheet and the income for the season and stuff like that. But yeah, we've guaranteed at least the Europa League, which again, I think gives us group stage matches until the end of January. But we're not looking at that. We're looking at the Champions League, which is where the big boys play, and it's where we should be. So that's still alive. And like I said, to do that with this squad, with the kind of big, massive changes we're going through and we're nowhere near completing yet, it's an achievement. It's not one that you'll probably watch on the end of season. It's not a DVD anymore, the end of season stream or whatever it might be on RTV, because it's not a good watch. It wasn't particularly great. But in terms of momentum, in terms of actually just getting the result, it's huge.
Yeah, I'll go back even further in time than that, when we used to have the Rangers videos, and
Cammy.
whenever Rangers lost, the match just wasn't even covered.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I think if you were going to do a season stream, as you say, then yeah, we might just put up the result rather than actually show you footage from the game. But listen,
Those old videos, they always evoke the strangest of memories, because when I think of them, for some reason, it's Basil Bowley in his underpants that comes to mind. The old Cameron and Williams videotapes.
yeah, yeah.
Dancing about getting ready for a Halloween party, I think it was, and one of the videos, him and Ian Ferguson. But yeah, it's changed days for sure.
The defence, Colin, I think it's fair to say, on Wednesday night, it's very, very makeshift. I don't think that I'm not gonna criticise Max Aarons too much, because he's been lifted and shifted across to left back. It's patently obvious that the manager has got some real questions over who can at the moment fill in that position. Ridvan Yilmaz is more than likely going to be leaving Rangers pretty soon.
Yeah.
I think he's got some concerns around starting Jeff in that position. He's brought Aarons in to be able to obviously fill in at right back. We're still playing James Tavernier there. John Souttar, I think, is a challenge in terms of his decision making. Somewhat ironically, we were all a little bit disappointed to hear that after his Scotland appearances a couple of months ago, that he then decided to go and have surgery. Would he be fit for this game? It's difficult to see how we can face tougher competition with John Souttar in that defence. I still think there's huge questions that James Tavernier has to answer. It's something that the manager definitely needs to work on. The positive, the flip side of that, because like you say, we want to be fair and we want to be balanced, is that Jack Butland has just found a new level of form in both of these games that, for me, absolutely recovers a lot of what we saw, the great stuff that we saw from Jack Butland. It was absolutely the right decision. I stand by what Barry Ferguson did with him towards the tail end of last season. He was making stupid mistakes, and I think he was in his own head, and we weren't able to arrest that slide. He had to be taken out the firing line. So the positive that I would take from both of these games against Panathinaikos is, if there is anything that could indicate a confidence boost for Jack Butland, I think that 180 minutes will give him a platform upon which he can continue to build.
Yeah, I mean, on Jack Butland first, before the actual defence, he's been a worry for the last few months of last season. He's been a worry for most of this summer in terms of how's he going to be? Are we going to have to go and find a goalkeeper as well? Given the massive amount of changes we need to make in the squad this summer, not ideal having to find a new goalkeeper as well. So if he can do what he's done in these first two competitive matches and get back to what's looking like the Jack Butland of old, then that solves a massive problem for us. And I'd be more than happy to have Jack Butland's the number one continuing if he's back to that level of form, that level of concentration, and not making all those mistakes he was doing last season. The defence is a weird one for me just now, kind of similar to the rest of the team. It's not the defence we're going to be watching for the majority of the season. At least I hope it's not. One good thing about them, Cammy, is that in terms of siege defending, they've actually done not bad in these 2 games against Panathinaikos. They've actually been all right at last-ditch defending and clearing things and getting corners away and all that sort of stuff. It's more the mistakes that have led to many, many, many Panathinaikos chances. I don't know how many chances over the 2 legs Panathinaikos had. I don't know how many they skied over the bar across the 2 games as well. But yeah, we gave up far too much to them. Now, some of that will be guys like Aaron's playing at left back when he's clearly a right back. He's not got much of a left foot. I get why we've done that, because obviously he doesn't like Elmaz. He's not sure about Jefty. And those 2 matches are so important against Panathinaikos. You get why he would have James Tavernier at right back, because he's got all the experience. He's done well for us in Europe. He knows what it's all about. I think maybe Saturday, we'll get on to that game later, but I think that's when you might see a change at right back and James Tavernier potentially coming out. And more players coming in defensively and changing it up. They're playing a new system. They're defending very differently to how they're used to. So that is going to take time as well. It's going to take time for us as fans to get used to it, because there was a couple of moments in the game tonight where we were doing square passes in the box. We were playing it along the back line quite a lot, and it wasn't really building up too much. It wasn't like 3 or 4 passes and launching it forward and getting an attack away. It was just passing it around, and we don't like watching it. We're not comfortable with it. Even when it's not really a risk, we feel it's a risk. And I think that's just going to be a bit of an education piece for the players who are doing it and taking part in it, and also for us that are watching it. But I'm not going to get too caught up in it yet, because we're so early in the season. I think there's players to come in and there's positions to get changed as well. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. If we're still having these sort of conversations about this defence come September, October time, then we've got an issue.
Yeah, and there's a few elements to that. I think we know that Russell Martin enjoys being able to play out from the back. You can already start to see where some of the coaching and being able to drill in to the back 5, really, including Butland himself, is about being able to play the ball at feet comfortably, being able to try and create space if you're getting a high press against them. Now, again, I didn't want us to go and sit back. I don't mean it like this, but at the same point, I didn't want us to go full gung ho in Greece, because the heat, Panathinaikos had to press. They had to be able to try and score early. They obviously created a lot of chances, as you kind of touched on there as well. And I think it will be interesting to see as to how that converts domestically, because I would expect our back 4 to effectively play much higher up the park domestically, because we'll get far more possession of the ball. We won't be dealing with that press. We won't be playing in that heat, obviously. So the dynamics definitely shift. I think that what's interesting is Martin's desire to be able to try and have the fullbacks almost invert a little bit and play within close quarters. Firstly, I don't think works with a right back playing at left back, because I don't think he's comfortable. Tav, for me, I think would struggle with it, because I think if he loses the ball, he doesn't have the recovery pace any longer to be able to do that. And I think what concerned me about what I saw against Panathinaikos was when we did lose the ball, we were too slow to be able to regroup and get back into a recovery position. And listen, if you're reading any match report from Wednesday night, you are going to read the phrase, rode our luck. And I totally agree with that. But I think there's things that we can do better. I'll be interested. I don't know if he'll drop Tav for Motherwell, because I think what he'll do is, with the Victoria Plzen game now confirmed is next Tuesday, 5th, I don't think he'll want to change the system, because he'll have one eye on that match, and obviously we're at home first, so therefore we'll want to take as much out of that game as we possibly can for the first leg. However, the other kind of point to that then going forward, the midfield for me on away in Greece, I think there was challenges with us being able to do the thing that is the cardinal rule within European football, especially away from home, which has been able to take care of the ball well. I'm going to put it down to a little bit of unfamiliarity in terms of the midfield, a little bit of rustiness, because we're very, very, very much at the start of the season. But there was too many times for me, Colin, where we lost the ball in transition due to some sloppiness, some poor passing, some poor touches. Danilo, again, I think that, I was a big advocate of Danilo, and I thought, there's definitely something in there that we could harness. He's had injury issues. I don't think he's kept himself totally at the top of his fitness game across the course of the summer. I think he's getting back into it. But we lack that ability to hold the ball up even when it gets to the final third of the park. And in games like Panathinaikos, you're going to have to be able to do things like this. We're going to see that more in Europe, irrespective of whatever European competition we end up playing in. So, whilst I wasn't panicking in terms of what I saw on Wednesday night, my big hope is that we take this as a lesson for being able to say, even if you're getting closed down, even if it happens in domestic games and the area in which you're covering is going to be tight because you're going to get a bit of a press once you start coming into the opposition half, or if you're in Europe and you're trying to break and then you know that you're going to get hunted, then you're going to have to do better with the ball. And that's something which I think the midfielders especially have to be able to try and take away from the European games thus far.
Yeah, I mean, those three midfielders, I'm quite happy with the three of them in terms of the idea of those three being in those positions and playing. I think they've got the potential to do quite well. Maybe it's just a case of them getting used to the system, getting used to each other more, and the kind of different roles that he's asked them to play. Raskin's role is going to be different this season to how it was last season. Roville playing that number 6 position. Diomande getting asked to go a little bit more forward and be a bit more creative as well. It will just take a little bit of time for them. Obviously, there's a couple other players going to come in as well into that positions and challenge. So I think the midfield will come good, but it's probably the one position in the park where we're actually quite good in terms of squads and depth, I think, and certainly in the centre of midfield anyway. Danilo does remain an issue for me, I think, Cammy. We ask a lot of our strikers because we generally only play with one. So we ask them to get involved in build-up play, and we also ask them to go and put the ball in the back of the net as well. So they're doing two jobs. And Danilo, when fit, has got a pretty good goal-scoring record for us and does pretty well at putting the ball in the back of the net. He's had a good pre-season as well. However, when it comes to kind of dropping back and getting involved with the midfield and picking up balls and holding balls, it's not his strength whatsoever. I'll give him credit that he tries it. He doesn't shirk away from it. He does come back. He does try and get involved, but more often than not, it breaks down when he does that. It's just not his strength at all. And he's maybe then not the quickest at then getting back involved and getting back further forward for when the ball then comes back to where the striker should be. So Danilo is another striker of ours who I don't think is going to cut it, or I don't think is going to be good enough to be our all-in number 9 or our all-in number 99 as he is. It's still a position I think we need to strengthen. That game tonight, that tie tonight, is worth a lot of money for us. That's tie alone, I think, is worth about €4 million. Because it guarantees us that European football, I think it's probably worth now about maybe €18 million in total. What that does to kind of the balance sheet or the transfer kitty for this summer, I don't know. We're a sensible ran club now that doesn't do daft things, so I'd like to think now that money's guaranteed, we'll go out and spend some of it, now that we know we're definitely going to get it. And there's certainly areas in the pitch we need to improve, but up front is still one of them. My only concern is that we're waiting until we get rid of some of them before we start bringing in new ones, and it seems to be taking a while to either move on Egeman for big money or to find somebody to take the Essers.
Yeah, and I suppose my last point I also want to touch on as well has to be Kieran Dow. Dowell has had a decent pre-season. He has certainly been given a chance by Russell Martin. I think that's very fair to say. What we hoped, and listen, do you know what? I try and remain optimistic. I think that you and I don't see what happens within training sessions. We don't see the conversations that the manager's having with these players, and probably more importantly, those players that have spent time away from the club on loan, whether or not when they come back, have they got the desire to try and cement a place, or do they want to try and facilitate a move elsewhere, whether or not the loan or be permanent or whatever. So we've got to go in the assumption and acting in good faith that Russell Martin has seen something within Kieran Dow. I think from the footage that we've seen of pre-season games and friendlies in terms of what we've seen behind closed doors in George's Park, etc., Dowell has featured and in some cases looked pretty well. You know, he's performed okay and stuff. But I come back to something which I think that we have discussed about Kieran Dow a lot at Rangers, that seems to be an excellent trainer, seems to listen to what he's been told, reliable, a good soldier, etc. I just feel when it comes to the crunch and he's in these games, there's too much anonymity from him. And I think that for the consideration that Russell Martin has, I mentioned beforehand about the takeaways, the lessons. What can we use these games against Panathinaikos as a learning opportunity to say, right, where do we need to improve? What do we need to work? I cannot say Kieran Dow has been able to do much to change my mind that he's lacking when he gets into that kind of first team position, and he does feature in games and he is getting game time. I just don't think he's producing anywhere near enough.
No, he's definitely not, Cammy. We've had a lot of players over the last couple of years who've been really good trainers, who've been really good guys, who've been apparently really good around the dressing room. It's not won us anything. It's not really done anything for us on the park. He's had opportunities. He went out on loan last year, did all very well down south. They seem to quite like him. Hopefully they're going to come back in for him. But for what he actually offers us, we were just talking about this on the post-match on Patreon. We don't actually know what he does. And he's been here quite a while for us not to know that. He doesn't offer much in an attacking point of view. He doesn't offer all that much defensively. He doesn't get around the pitch, and he's not really robust. He's not a guy that's winning balls and tackling and doing all that good stuff. You saw on Wednesday night. He took a yellow card for the team, but that's because the guy was well past him. It was his only option. And he actually failed to foul him twice before he actually did. So we've given him all the time in the world, but it doesn't seem to have it. He doesn't seem to be fulfilling anything that we want him to do on the pitch. I also think that even if he went out and had an absolute worldie on Wednesday night, played great, scored the winner, I just don't know if that's enough for him, because I think he's so far gone in the eyes of the vast majority of the fans. I don't even think there's a way back for him. And in Russell Martin, we've got a guy who I'm personally completely behind. I'm sold. I'm into it. I like the fact that he's his own man. I like the fact that he's doing things completely different. I like the fact that he doesn't wear a suit, Cammy. I like the fact that he wears his trainers and stuff like that. I like the fact he's refusing to get his haircut. But what he doesn't need when he's not completely bought over by all the fans, there's a lot of fans not happy. Russell Martin is not the guy that a lot of people wanted. I would hate somebody like Kieran Dow to be the kind of straw that breaks the cow's back, so to speak, because he's gave him so much opportunities. He's played him in almost every game so far, pre-season and now the competitive ones. He's not got anything back from it. And I don't want Kieran Dow to be the guy that lets this manager down and ruins things for us. And he's got the opportunity to do that. I think he's got that in his game, Kieran Dow, that he could be a guy that makes mistakes or doesn't do enough. The only good thing I'll say is that we've been linked quite heavily with players that play in this position. It's looking very much like Moore of Tottenham is coming in. We've been linked with Ant-Man. We've been linked with the fella at Crystal Palace as well. All these guys are going to come in and sort of challenge for those areas, all of which I think would come in and be much better options. So I do think it won't be a guy we're talking about long term. He's potentially just a guy the manager does quite like. He's fitting in a position for us just now where there's really nobody else to do it. But similar to what I said about the defence, if we're stressing about the defence still come September, October, I'm massively concerned. If we're still talking about Kieran Dow starting games and not contributing in September and October, I'm massively concerned at that as well. But I'll accept it because of where we're at, and there's not a lot of options. We're still trying to bring people in and get them fit. But long term, there's not a future for Kieran Dow at this club.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think for me, probably to give me a degree of confidence in what you've just said there, Russell Martin has not been shy questioning some of the players that he's not happy with. And I think it's actually been quite refreshing, if I'm being honest. He mentioned a little bit, I beg your pardon, post the Middlesbrough friendly, that he had concerns about where certain players were in terms of their warm-up and been given that opportunity. And he's not, I don't think he's going to stick by him if he then thinks that he's a threat to what he's trying to do, right? Is probably the best way I can say it. So I think he's going to make pragmatic decisions. I think he already has to a certain extent. There's a little bit, and we kind of go back to the left-back conversation when we'll talk about this, and there's a little bit of square pegs and round holes, so we need to finesse that out. As you rightly say, there could be some incoming transfers that then mean that we expedite outgoing transfers. We've seen a touch of that so far, but you and I think both know, and we both accept the fact that the squad will change, I think, pretty dramatically across the course of the next few weeks anyway. Whether Kieran Dow is part of that or not will remain to be seen. That's part of our critical overview in terms of what we've seen against Panathinaikos on Wednesday night. Let's talk about the highlights. And I don't think that you get to talk about the highlights without mentioning Gidi Gassama. What a goal at Ibrox, but what a goal across in Athens. I am going to give you the public credit here, which you absolutely deserve. You were the man in the group chat who said, I think if we get a goal early on here, we'll be fine. Now, albeit Panathinaikos scored first, which I don't think was part of your prediction.
Oh, it wasn't.
But you had said just before 60 minutes, and Gassama turned up for you, I think, with about 60 seconds to spare. I'll be honest with you, I despise the phrase, a great time to score. I know we use it, it's an old football cliche and all the rest of it. But I'm going to be slightly hypocritical because the Gassama equaliser was a brilliant time to score because Panathinaikos had been, I mean, I don't know what term you could use, beyond banging at the door. I mean, they were booting the door down. They eventually get their goal. There's a inexplicably long VAR check, but they obviously get the goal with 30 minutes left in the game. All they need is an equaliser, take it into extra time, but they absolutely would have had the levels raised as a result of that. And it was only a few short moments later, Gassama gets the equaliser and completely bursts any momentum they got from taking the lead. It's a wonderful hit to be able to try and curve it away. It's a beautiful goal, one of those crackers where it hits the inside of the post as it goes in. I'm absolutely happy to concede the fact that it would have felt a bit like a robbery. If I was a Panathinaikos fan, I'd say I'd play Rangers again tomorrow and it could be a very different result. But listen, them's the breaks. But given his two introductions in both of these both of these legs across the tie, my word, if he can continue doing that, then yeah, we've got an absolute steal from Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, you kind of understand now why their fans are so upset about losing him. The goal, first of all, is massive. Not just because it was a good goal, and it really, really was. That ball comes at him quick. Danilo gets two shots at it. His first one deflects back to Danilo. Danilo takes a second crack at it. It comes back out towards Gassama. He hits it first time, and it's kind of coming to him at a sort of awkward sort of hip height where you can't get down and head at it. You've really got to kind of swing your hips and manoeuvre it. You've got to be careful you don't lean back too hard. Or it's
exactly what I was going to say. How many times have you seen them blaze over the bar?
He just hits it perfectly, cool as a cucumber. He puts it, but it's not even that he just gets it on target. He puts it past the keeper, makes it really hard for the keeper to save it. And it's huge because, like you say, Panathinaikos have been knocking at the door all night. They were knocking at the door the whole first leg as well. And they probably felt like, what have we got to do to get a goal against these guys? This is ridiculous. Suddenly they get one. The whole momentum changes for them. Then their fans start going crazy. They start to believe they're back in it. They've got, I think they had 35 minutes or so at that point. I think they scored on 53 minutes or 54 minutes or something like that. So they've got a fair chunk of time to come back into it and get another goal. They almost get one right after the first one, actually. They should have scored and they missed to make it 2-0. But then we go up and we get that goal, and all that energy and all that sort of momentum that they've got, it just completely dilutes out of them. And we get it, and we take it on, and we get it at that point. And when we got that goal back, I started to think, you know what, I think we're going to be all right. I think it wasn't until the 70, 72nd, 73rd minute where I actually decided, yeah, we're through, we're going to be okay at this point. But yeah, it was a good time to score because the whole kind of pendulum had just swung in their direction. And rather than crumbling and blaming the heat and blaming the start of the season, blaming how early it was and all the excuses we could have trotted out, they didn't do that. They went up the pitch, they scored, and then they defended again for the rest of the match. So huge, huge goal and really, really well done. The biggest thing I can say about him is, Cammy, that we've hardly seen him yet. We've only seen glimpses of him coming off the bench, and he's done well in both those games. Scored two big goals. I mean, his goals tonight have paid over the two legs. Sorry, have pretty much justified and paid his transfer fee already. If you think about it, in terms of him getting us through this tie. Hope he's fit for Saturday. In terms of, I want to see him starting now. I want to see what he can do domestically. I get we've kind of eased him in and all that, but I hope come Saturday he's starting the match and we really get to see what he can do domestically and what impact he can have there, because he's exciting. And we love players like that. We love players that get us up off our feet. We love players that you feel can start something, you feel can do something on their own. Everything I've read about him, Adam Fortin from the pod, did a really good written article over on his Substack about him this week, and a lot of that was about how his first instinct is get the ball, go forward, go. It's not always looking for the pass. It's not playing the easy one. It's not passing it back. His first instinct is to go forward and to shoot. And by God, he's done that in his 2 appearances so far. So super excited about him, and he could be a very, very exciting one this season.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I think as well. We talked about the manager earlier on about his selections, and he mentioned in the pre-match conference, he thought Gassama could start, and obviously we saw the lineup come out. He's on the bench. I think you've hit the nail on the head when you mention that we can see more from him. What I just enjoy from what we have seen thus far is not just the sublime goals. It's the dynamism that he brings into the team. I think he the way how we've used him thus far, because I do think, listen, he's absolutely merited a start. But what we've seen from him thus far as an impact sub, I think, has been fantastic, because he gets you off your seat. He's exciting when he gets the ball. The kind of the dying period. I would say the last 15 minutes against Panathinaikos, when he did get the ball, there was a couple of lovely moments on the left hand side, linked up okay. I thought a little bit in there that he can work on, but he's just keen to be able to try and drive forward with the ball. And if he's able to get some first-time hits away like he has done already, then listen, do you know what? We've got someone in there that I think can make a real difference as well. So we move on to the next qualifier. It will be against the Czech team, Victoria Plzen. Home leg confirmed at Ibrox for the 5th of August, which is next Tuesday. Rangers emails are already out as we record late on Wednesday night.
Yeah. Tuesday kickoff time to be confirmed at the moment, so they don't miss a trick. But to be fair, it is a very, very short lead time for this.
Yeah, listen, we knew that was going to happen. And then the away leg across in the Czech Republic will be the following Wednesday as well, which is the 12th, I think, if I'm reading my dates correctly. It's going to be... It's coming thick and fast, Colin, right? And we know that. It seems like I haven't had a chance to watch highlights or anything like that yet of their away leg to Servette, but Servette went into that game with a lead, and Pilsen were able to turn it around. A couple of red cards involved within that game, so that is going to be a tough one. It's certainly easier than the tie that we could have faced had we not been able to progress against Panathinaikos. Ultimately, we are in a situation. We've got the game against Motherwell late on Saturday afternoon. Again, we'll touch on that in just a moment. But Rangers don't have any time to rest on their laurels. It's going to be some recovery, and then we're into the Motherwell game, probably recovery Sunday, and then we're back to work on Monday with a view to be able to get some, I think probably, like you say, some of those lessons learned and some fixes made for the game on Tuesday night. Now, we can, up until Thursday night, so at time of listening to this, folks, until 11 o'clock, we can include any new signings being able to come in if they are signed by that time. There is every likelihood by the time that you all do come to listen to this that we have confirmed Mickey Moore has come in from Spurs. I think the Ant-Man transfer is probably a little bit more down the line, Colin. But this will be very interesting to see if we are able to get that deal done. And then, again, like you say, how we look to be able to try and introduce Moore into his involvement. It's going to be a tough one. Russell Martin is going to have to take some considerations into play. But fundamentally right now, with all eyes beyond Saturday into next Tuesday, it is about just being able to put on a really strong performance. And if we can emulate what we did against Panathinaikos when they came to Glasgow, right now I'd bite your hand off for it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? This game's coming thick and fast, but you know what? That's not a bad thing for us at this point in time. The more games this team can play together and start to mould things and get better and improve, then it's a good thing. I think that the team and the squad, the whole management team will have a big lift from the result on Wednesday night. I think that will massively help things. They'll have had that hanging over them, isn't it, about the potential banana skin of going out. Then that tricky qualifier would have faced for the Europa and the kind of the potential to go out completely. Had that not gone our way, that's gone now. They've got European football to look forward to one way or another. That just lifts them, get back to the domestic stuff starting on Saturday properly. Hopefully, result then, build on that into Tuesday, put ourselves in a great position like we did last time to then go the away leg by a good chance. So, yeah, it's not just about new players coming in, it's about the players that are already here, establishing themselves more, getting fitter, getting used to the squad, getting used to their positions, and just like continual improvement all round from all areas of the squad, really. But yeah, it's not an exciting tie. You hear the team we're up against, and it's not a famous name in European football. Doesn't have the same gravitas as even like a Panathinaikos, I don't think. But they're no mugs. They're a good side. They'll make it difficult for us. There isn't really any easy ones at this stage of this qualifying for this Champions League. It's made that difficult for us to get in through these rounds. That there isn't really any easy ones at all. But given what we've done in Europe in recent years, given the investment we're making this summer, you've got to fancy our chances, and that all starts at Ibrox on Tuesday. Do well there, build on it, give us something to kind of take away, and we saw what we were capable of doing this week, so we just need to do it again in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it shows you how bad my maths and my calendar reading abilities are when I can't even add on 5 and 7. So it is the 5th of August, which is next Tuesday, and then the following Tuesday, which is the 12th of August as well. My days are running away with me. Let's just touch on the 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. Colin, I hate a 5:30 Saturday kickoff. You love it. But we start our league campaign for 25-26 away to Motherwell at Fir Park. It's stating the obvious, I know, but it's really, really important that we get off to a strong start. Europe is lovely, and I think it's always nice to have the cherry on top of the cake, but the priority is always the league. We were a shambles towards the tail end of the league last season. It was awful to watch, and I don't even just mean in terms of the results themselves. The performances were equally as bad. We are now in a better position, I think it's fair to say, for the reasons that you've just mentioned. But I'm really, really eager to make sure that when we go along to Fir Park on Saturday, that we start to show signs of intent, that we are absolutely here to compete domestically. And I like to use that word opportunity. This is what we now have in front of us to make sure that we get it off to a positive start. It's not anyone near, as we've discussed already, the team that we expect to see September, October kind of time. But right now, for what we have, we absolutely should have more than enough for us to be able to beat Motherwell, irrespective of European qualifiers. And again, like you say, the energy that they take, we have to be motivated to ensure that we express ourselves in the right way on Saturday afternoon.
Absolutely. I don't know the last league game that I really looked forward to. I can't remember our league games actually meant anything. It seems to been so long since we threw away last season so early. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, getting started, full of all that early season optimism. Hopefully it's optimism that's just in the right place and it's not going to be disappointment again. But yeah, we need to start off. We don't have a great record the opening day. We're quite good at making a bit of an arse of the opening day or making it harder than it should be. I don't want that this season. I think we've got a real opportunity to have a strong start, and our rivals in the league this season seem to be going through a little bit of a own self-made, fan-made crisis at the moment. And any sort of pressure we can put on them, getting points on the board early doors and staying in touch with them, I think will help in that regard as well. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to having league games that matter. Having a little bit of excitement and entertainment going to the games, Cammy, and just very much looking forward to all that starting. So yeah, looking forward to that one. Big shout out actually just on this game, because I'm actually missing this one on Saturday because 2 of our listeners on Patreon, Rachel and Fergus, are getting married on Saturday. Imagine we won the league last year and they were missing Flag Day. So I'm missing it for the wedding. So good luck to them. Terrible choice of wedding dates, guys, but all the best to you. And you're one of the few people worth missing a game for.
What a sook. I'll be at Fir Park and I'll be making sure that I start to see the Title 56 coming back to Ibrox and wanting to make sure that we can cheer the team on for that as well. Colin, I know I kind of messed up dates earlier on, but there is a really important date which is coming up in the Heart and Hand calendar, and that is our live show at Edmondson House on Friday, the 15th of August. Tickets are available on the Edmondson House site if you want to go on and join us. The shows are always great fun. We do like a wee quiz before them that Ross and James do a fair to decent job of organising. I think it's all right. I personally think the highlight is not the guys who are on stage. I think it's the wonderful merch and the guy who organises all of the merchandise. I think he's the real star of the show. I can't remember what his name is.
Yes, Colin or something like that. I don't know. He's a bit of dafty. But yeah, absolutely looking forward to that. It's always a good night in Edmondson House. Always a good show that you guys on stage put on. It's always good meeting a lot of the listeners and having chats with them as well. And actually just put in orders for stuff today. So we've got some phone pop socket stand things coming that are all got Heart and Hand logos on them. We've got little key rings that you can put in your trolley instead of carrying pound coins about with you. We've got bottle openers and we've got all sorts of other nonsense. So please come over to the merch stand and buy some of our shite and raffle tickets and all that stuff as well, because it's always nice to meet and talk to you guys.
Yeah, if there's one thing that Heart and Hand live shows can always have, it's a really high level quality of tat that you can buy and then re-gift to somebody else as well. However, they're exceptionally low cost, and like I say, Colin will be your man to be able to get all of your goodies and all that kind of stuff. But on a serious note, please feel free to come along. You'll hear from people in the community that have come to these live shows before that they absolutely love the chance to kind of get together. Hopefully we're all on a really buzzing, positive note as we go into that, having ideally navigated through the next round of European qualifiers as well against Plzen and off to a strong start in the league. David will be back with you on Flagship on Monday to cover everything that's happened at Fir Park, and looking forward to Tuesday night's game. I'll be back with you next week as well. In the meantime, as we've mentioned already, if you want some great Rangers content, head on over to patreon.com/Heart and Hand. Not just for Rangers content, loads of great stuff on there as well about the wider world of football, and our very own Colin McMillan and Jack Shaw, plus some guest appearances from Andy McGowan on RBR on a Friday, which is always a good chuckle to take you into your weekend. Colin, what have you guys been covering recently?
We ripped off the show Taskmaster and did a show called Jackmaster recently. This week we have some news stories from the news, and we're going to take a bit of a deep dive into the many, many lies that Hulk Hogan told in his life. Because he's quite famous before he died for talking absolute nonsense. Things like he was asked to be in Metallica, but he decided to wrestle instead. Things like that.
Fantastic.
Always
fantastic. Good. Well, listen, thank you to our producers, Mike Lee and Paul Myers. Colin, thank you very much for coming on for the first extra show of season 25-26. A pleasure to have you on as always, my friend.
Pleasure, yeah, thank you. Looking forward to doing more of these as the season goes on. Hopefully happy ones.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you all for listening. As I say, David will be back on Monday. You know where to go and get your Heart and Hand content should you want even more of it. And we'll speak to you again soon. Thanks all. Bye-bye.